war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars. And it's been said if we lose that war, and in so doing lose this way of freedom of ours, history will record with the greatest astonishment that those who had the most to lose did the least to prevent its happening.
We, the people, tell the government what to do. It doesn't tell us. Our Constitution is a document in which we, the people, tell the government what it is allowed to do. A man is not free unless government is limited. An informed patriotism is what we want. But still watch closely and don't be afraid to see what you see.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies. Even today, there is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it. For as a wise man once said, an error doesn't become a mistake until you refuse to correct it.
When in hell are all you people going to wake up?
Moretti, Underground, the Liberty Report.
Well, hello, America. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Monday, Memorial Day, actually, May 26th, 2014 edition of Moretti Underground, the Liberty Report, broadcast live from right here at PRN Radio Network, the exclusive home of the Watchmen of America program. Hey, Watchmen! Happy Memorial Day to all of you. I'm Duane Moretti, and my great co-host JoJo Norton will be here later on. However, we do have a guest host filling in until she gets here. His name's Jesse G., and he'll be here shortly to join me. We're very happy you tuned in with us. Our call-in number, as always, is 714-888-7404. And our chat rooms, both at Blog Talk Radio and right here at PRN Radio Network, are open for you as well. Our amazing colleagues, Lynn, AstroTurf, and Famous Anna, declined invitation to do fun things today so they could be here with us. You know them. They're fantastic researchers, journalists, and a couple of them have their own newspaper. They even have other careers, too. Yet they make time to put links and documents and other important information into the chats, so you have them right there at your disposal. And thank you, ladies. You rock. Several of our other colleagues might be around here, too, so please say hi to them all when you get to the chats. Today, like I said, is Memorial Day, 2014, and we have a great show lined up for you. We'll do news, tributes, and other reports, but first I have to do our disclaimer. That just lets the feds and NSA and FCC and everybody else who might be interested know that anything said on this show is my responsibility and not that of our wonderful sponsors, PRN and the Watchmen of America. The disclaimer goes like this. The comments made by hosts and or guest hosts or phone callers of the PRN Radio Network do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints, ideology, beliefs, or anything else for that matter, of members of the Watchmen of America program or the Patriot Resistance website, either in past, present, and even future broadcasts. All right, well, now that that's out of the way, we can start the show. Welcome, everybody. I hope you're all enjoying this holiday. And although it's somber in meaning and loss, it's also a time of enjoying family and friends who are still with us. So on behalf of this show, we would like to thank every veteran, both past and present, for their service to all of us, and we honor their fallen comrades along with them. The veterans, you know, bear the greatest burden in their hearts and also on their backs. And we love every one of you. So now let me introduce our guest host, and we'll start this show. Let's open up his microphone if I can find him. Here he is. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Jesse G. Hello, Jesse.
Hello, Mr. Wynn. How are you doing this fine evening?
Oh, I want to thank you very much for filling in on such short notice. JoJo, of course, she had some other pressing family things that she had to do today, so she's going to be running a little late, and I really appreciate you calling in.
Oh,
why don't you let people know who you are, Jesse G, and, tell them a little about yourself, and then we'll start this show.
Oh, sounds like a dateline. Anyhow, the Jesse G from Maryland, live in Pasadena, just outside of Baltimore. Working to D.C. pretty much every day, which is very fun to do. Basically, the average type construction worker, I guess. Go out there and build buildings.
Good old middle-class American with a big family, huh?
Something like that, yeah. 5 kids. Matter of fact, I was fishing a little bit earlier today. We went out and had the barbecue, of course, and had a good old time doing that. Aside from that, just try to keep up with news and try and do what we can and help things around here.
My peeps in the chat room were all saying, "Hi, Jesse."
Well, I'm sorry. I'm on the phone. I can't see you in the chat room. I wish I could. But,
that's okay. I want to start out today by saying, like I said, it's Memorial Day. And all those veterans out there, I want to tell you the difference between Memorial Day and Veterans Day. Veterans Day is to honor all of our veterans. Memorial Day is to memorize and honor the veterans who served and have passed. So they have different histories, too. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, the first official observance of Memorial Day was on May 28, 1868. And History.com says May 30th, by the way, when flowers were placed on the graves of Union and Confederate soldiers at Arlington National Cemetery. And the ceremonies, of course, centered around morning-draped veranda of the Arlington Mansion, and that was once the home of General Robert E. Lee, and, of course, some various officials. Anyhow, after World War I, the holiday was extended to all soldiers who had fallen in all American wars. Veterans Day, on the other hand, has its origins in the early 20th century. In November 1919, 1 year after the armistice ending World War I went into effect, President Woodrow Wilson declared November 11th the first commemoration of Armistice Day. He said, "To us in America, the reflections of Armistice Day will be filled with solemn pride in the heroism of those who died in the country's service and with gratitude for the victory, both because of the thing from which it has freed us and because of the opportunity it has given America to show her sympathy with peace and justice." So, there you have the difference. So,
that's an interesting thing.
I know that you are a big fan of motorcyclists. I know that you have always been with a group of motorcyclists back up in Boston. If you haven't noticed his accent yet, he's from Boston, too.
Don't park my car. What are you, crazy?
In D.C. right now, there's over 700,000 of our close personal friends for Rolling Thunder.
Mm-hmm.
They are from all over. Did you get to see them at all?
Oh, yeah. We were down there on Saturday and Sunday. What a sight, I'll tell you. Just to see the sea of people and the flags and everybody out there just watching them, having a good time. Nice, quiet, didn't have any fights. It was a real good time.
Yeah, there's not going to be any fights there.
Beautiful weather part. Well, I've seen my few share of motorcycle rallies, and yeah, there have been a few altercations that I've seen. But no, it was a real good time. I brought the kids down, and like I said, it was a beautiful day. And just to watch the sea of bikes coming down, and from the point of view where I was over at the Arlington Cemetery, and watching them come across the bridge, the first few of them coming through, and it gave me goosebumps, honestly.
Some friends of ours over at 10 Million Bikers to D.C. posted a little thing. They said, "Did you see all those U-Hauls?" So I said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, we heard about Michelle Obama's Let's Move, so we sent 6 U-Hauls. Boy, were we surprised."
Right, exactly. Too bad. She should have taken us up on the offer. It would have been way easier. Instead of having to put up with her and her husband, I'm telling you, I'll tell you what, they are.
I
love. Beautiful house, right?
Yep.
As it goes.
I love the motorcyclists, man. I hung around with, bikers and bikes all my life, and I know you did too. Some of our dearest friends are there, the Hyde Park Harley Riders. I'll give them a little bit of a shout-out. Captain Jack's leading the way over there, who's actually an admiral. Things are going good, I guess. I have a tribute to our veterans, fallen. It's written by Kelly Strong, and the name of it is Freedom is Not Free. I thought it would be really appropriate for today. She writes, I watched the flag pass by one day. It fluttered in the breeze. A young Marine saluted it, and then he stood at ease. I looked at him in uniform, so young, so tall, so proud. He'd stand out in any crowd. I thought how many men like him had fallen through the years, how many died on foreign soil, how many mothers' tears, how many pilots, planes shot down, how many died at sea, how many foxholes were soldiers' graves. No, freedom isn't free. I heard the sound of taps one night when everything was still. I listened to the bugler play and felt a sudden chill. I wondered just how many times that taps had meant amen when a flag had draped a coffin of a brother or a friend. I thought of all the children, of the mothers and the wives, of the fathers, sons, and husbands with interrupted lives. I thought about a graveyard at the bottom of the sea of unmarked graves in Arlington. No, freedom isn't free. I thought that was a really nice poem just to start the show off today, because you know what? Freedom is definitely not free. As a matter of fact, Jesse, I don't know if you watch Dirty Jobs. Did you ever see Mike Rowe, the star of Dirty Jobs?
Oh, yes. One of my favorite people to watch. He's an actual real man if you ever get to talk with him directly.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, he wrote a Memorial Day tribute to somebody he just barely met the other day. He starts it out, he says, say hi to retired Staff Sergeant Travis Mills, formerly of the 82nd Airborne U.S. Army. It goes on, he has a picture of him. He says, as you can see, Travis has undergone a few structural modifications, most visibly in the leg department. Likewise, his left arm is more machine than flesh. And though his right arm appears to be around my waist, it really isn't. Like the rest of his limbs, it's been missing in action for some time. I met Travis a few weeks ago in D.C. at the Science and Engineering Festival and spent a half hour talking mostly about dirty jobs. He wanted to tell me how much he and his buddies appreciated that show while on active duty. He wanted to know what it was like to work in so many difficult and dangerous situations. Can you imagine? How exactly does one answer a question like that from a guy like this? You know, this guy, Travis, by the way, is the first soldier to ever survive all 4 limbs being blown off, by the way. Wow. On the day we met, I was a little stressed out. I had moderated a panel on a main stage, and I was rushing to the other end of the convention center to meet with a bunch of CEOs to discuss micro works. It was late, and there were 350,000 people between me and where I needed to go, all of whom wanted to say hello and take a photo. My security team was cutting a swath through the crowd, and I was trying very hard not to look like a complete douche. Then one of the event organizers ran over and grabbed my arm. Hey, Mike, there's a guy backstage who really wants to say hello. That's nice, I said. Tell him to get out here and do it. I was walking fast, head down, determined to maintain forward momentum. If you stop in a situation like that, you never get started again. Well, said the guy, it would be easier if you came to him. It'll just take a second. Why, his leg's broken? Not exactly, but he's just around the corner. I think he was in the war. I told the security guys to sit tight, and I followed the guy down a long hallway, looking at my watch as we fast-walked into the backstage area. Then we ducked behind a blue curtain, and Travis Mills stood up to greet me. Actually, he kind of unfolded himself from a chair and came toward me with a very wide smile. He then extended a prosthetic arm and offered a plastic hand, which I automatically shook. Mike Rowe, what an honor. I'm Travis Mills, and I am very, very pleased to meet you. I've seen a lot of things over the years, and I've gotten good at pretending there's nothing unusual when there clearly is, but I was completely unprepared for this. Ah, shit, I said. What happened? IED, Afghanistan. Damn, I'm sorry. No big deal. It's been 2 years now. I'm good. Tell me something, though. Are you going to do any more dirty jobs? What? Dirty jobs, man. When are you going to see some new ones? Well, Travis, that show was canceled, and I'm working on something new. Though I think that'll be just as good, maybe better. Hey, that's great. I got new legs, and you got a new show. Tell me all about it. And that's how the conversation started. My show, my foundation, my book, etc. But I eventually steered it back to him and learned that Travis is one of only 5 quadruple amputees to survive that level of injury in the recent wars. He has a motto, never give up, never quit. He has a foundation. He's featured in a new documentary. He also has a wife and a kid and a deeply personal commitment to help other wounded vets cope with their injuries. But when I asked why I hadn't seen him in any of the typical commercials and PSAs for wounded veterans, his answer was stunning. He said he didn't consider himself to be wounded. I'm not a victim, Mike, and I refuse to be portrayed that way. Case closed. Fact is, Travis is missing more than a few original parts. He's missing all traces of self-pity, and that presents a challenge for mortals like me, because it's a hell of a thing to feel put out because a crowd of fans are making me late for an important meeting, and then to listen to a guy with no arms and no legs tell me how lucky he is and how much he appreciates all my hard work. That's called the gut check, and I could use one from time to time, especially on Memorial Day, when the biggest decisions I face are what to grill and which type of frosty beverage to enjoy. This year, as I resolve these and other important issues, I'll think of Travis Mills, a guy who went out on a limb for me in every way possible. Thanks, Travis, and happy Memorial Day to you all. Mike Rowe. Unbelievable story. I had to share. Yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
Right? No, I'm sorry. No, I didn't mean to talk over you, but I'll tell you what. Like he said, just to have that man stand up and talk to him, and to see someone of his stature now with his fame and everything else that goes along with it, to really sit down and respect it and be true like that, it really makes you think about that man in a whole different light now.
Yeah.
You don't look at him now as just, and it's funny because and when you're putting out those words that douche and he's saying shit and and he talks just like pretty much anybody on the job site, and it's really nice to see, I guess, a breath of fresh air coming out of Hollywood type deal. No one with their off the wall, the land of fruit and nuts out there in L.A. type deal. So.
Yeah, well, after reading that article, are you kidding me? I'm going to think of Travis Mills an awful lot, too.
Exactly.
We got nothing to complain about when a guy like that is up and out and telling Mike Rowe what kind of a dirty, tough, dirty job he has when this guy here is a quadruple amputee. Thank you, Travis Mills. Hey, we got another problem. We got a Marine. His name is Sergeant Andrew Tamarisi, and he's being held in a Mexican prison for taking a wrong turn. He had 3 guns in his truck, and he was, you've been on highways before where you miss your sign and you try to get over, you can't get over. Well, that's what happened to this kid, and he ended up at the border in Mexico. He called the police and said, look, I wasn't supposed to be here. I have guns in my car. They're trying to take my guns. Not only did they take the kid's guns, they took him, and he's been rotting in a prison since. John Kerry was down there in Mexico the other day. He came back without Tamarisi. That kid's mother has been all over the television. She's been on Greta. She's got a petition at the WhiteHouse.gov, which I wouldn't go to but maybe I will for this. But she needs a couple 100,000 signatures so the White House will even acknowledge that there is a petition out there. There's a rally been announced at the border between the United States and Mexico for May 28th. Today's the 26th, so in 2 days. That's the date of his next court hearing in Mexico. He's 25 years old. He's a Marine sergeant. He has already been in custody since March 31st. He was originally from Western Florida, but he made a visit down out there. He was going to a veterans hospital to be seen by somebody. And like I said, he was carrying several guns in his vehicles, and the charges that were filed there for carrying weapons intended to be used for the military, carrying a weapon not registered in Mexico, and possessing ammunition. This kid could do 20 years down there. Mm-hmm. Now, Representative Duncan Hunter, he's from California, he's called for citizens to rise up and defense of the Marines' freedom. And he's asking for anybody who's down there near the border, please go to this rally, and let's see if we can get this Marine out of there. You know damn well Obama's not going to try to get him out.
Nothing in it for him.
What?
There's nothing in it for him.
That's true.
There's no political gain. There's no political gain.
Obama's in a world of trouble.
Yeah.
Not he personally, but his administration outed the CIA station chief in Kabul. Obama made a surprise visit to Kabul, Afghanistan, to Bagram Air Force Base over there.
Right.
First of all, Karzai wouldn't even meet with him. Now, if the President of the United States is coming to your country, you really clear your calendar and you go meet him, right? Not Karzai, he didn't meet him.
Wow.
You know, and Obama...
Any other president at this point.
Yeah, well, you know, we have spent a lot of treasure, we have spilled a lot of blood, we have lost a lot of lives over there. And then Karzai can just snub him? I don't like Obama. You all know me. I'm not a big fan of Obama whatsoever. However, the guy didn't even meet him, wouldn't go. But we send billions and trillions of dollars over there. We have rebuilt that country. We send pallets full of $100 bills over there. We have given them all kinds of equipment, and he just couldn't break his calendar to go and visit with Obama. All right, now, while he was on his way over there, the White House, and they won't tell us who at the White House, put the station chief for Kabul name on a list of people who were going to be attending this little soiree he was having there.
Apparently this man didn't want to step down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let me tell you
Obama
something.
wants to put one of his buddies up there.
Yeah, well, there's no such thing as an accident. You do not out the station chief at a CIA operation anywhere. Never mind in a war zone when you have men.
Well, you do if he doesn't agree with you. If he is a troublemaker or someone that you deem to be a blockade or an obstacle in your way, what do? Oh, oops, I'm so sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Do they know who you are? Oh, you can't stay there now. I'm so sorry. Oh, you're option free. Here he is, right here.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, there's a guy named Scott Wilson. He's the chief White House correspondent for the Washington Post. Mm-hmm. No, the U.S. Post. Anyhow, it went out to 6,000 reporters, first of all, the memo with this guy's name on it. So this guy, Scott Wilson from the Post, he calls up the White House and says, hey, yeah, really sure? Did you see who this is? And they actually fought him at the White House saying, yeah, we're sure. What's your problem? So finally Wilson says, well, have you ever heard of somebody named Valerie Plame? And then they got what he was trying to say. So now they decide to walk it back. They say, oh, well, we'll just scratch it out and send out another email and just forget about it. No, by then 6,000 people have it, and they send it out to 6,000 of their friends. Here's the guest list of who's going to be at the soiree. Sure enough, the guy's name was on it. So now they say, well, we're not sure whether or not he has to leave Afghanistan. You know, we don't know if he's been in danger now. Of course, he's been in danger.
No way.
Mm.
He's not compromised.
He's fine. Yeah, we took the email back. He's very compromised, and so is his family. They outed him. They gave his name. Can you imagine? This guy's a CIA station chief in Kabul. You know how many drones we've put out? You know how many operations have come out of there in war? This guy and his family are in danger now. Compliments of the President of the United States and his administration. So he's in a world of trouble, and that just broke out. Now, the media is barely even mentioning it. Are you kidding me?
Well, no, you can't disgrace them. The Democrats are just about to take over and go into an election cycle, and they're already trying to backpedal from Mr. Obama and his policies. And what are they going to do and say, oh, my dear Lord, all you people that are my friends in the media, don't say nothing because, you know, we want power, and as soon as we get power, we're just going to throw you out of our offices anyway. You're going to do what you're told. You'll write what we tell you to write. You'll listen to what you listen to, and then you'll think how we tell you to think.
Yeah, well, our media was all in with this Obama administration. They thought that he was the next best thing to sliced bread. And now that they've sold themselves out, they can't get out of it. You know, media is not press. There's a very big difference between the media and being the press. I have no idea why this phone is ringing. Can you hear that, Jesse? Oh, my goodness. Hey, can you guys still hear me? Wow, that was weird. All right, you can hear me. All right, good. I don't know where Jesse went, but the phone was ringing, and then I have no idea. Anyhow, so now the media, like I started to say, they are not the free press that our Constitution mentions. What the media has become is actually prostitutes. They are a for-profit entity. They are loyal to the client, not the Constitution. They are not loyal to you or to me. They are only loyal to the client. So I wanted to, let people know that the media, now that they have been trapped in going along with this administration, they have no way out. Jesse, you're live again.
I'm so sorry. Actually, as I was talking, I got a call from an unphoned number. My phone just went crazy. Shut up.
Well, that's okay.
Oops. Never mind. I didn't say nothing. It's all an illusion.
Anyhow, so if we're depending on the press, then we may as well just forget about it. We are the press now. We don't get paid. We are the ones who will tell you the truth. We're the ones that dig. Not just this show. I'm not talking about just us. Well, that's what we do. However, the alternative media, I wouldn't give you a nickel for any one of the major network medias. They are just so compromised that they don't even know how to get out of it. And even CNN, right? CNN says we won't be shamed into covering the Benghazi situation. Shamed? Do they even know what shamed is? They should have been ashamed a long time ago. Never mind telling us that they're not going to be shamed into reporting on it. Don't report on it. We don't need you.
Edward R. Murrow, right there. Honestly, exactly, who are they to be not shamed to cover something of an importance of that? It's basically all agenda-based. Everything is agenda-based. We have to censor everything in order to make it more palatable so we look good. Oh, we went out and brought $13 million. No. We just got a surplus of money. That's it. That's what we'll say. So
yeah.
It's all in how you word it. It's all... it's all an illusion. It's a magic trick, basically. Smoke and mirrors. It's all in how you present the case.
So the media is not going to tell you anything. They're not going to tell you about Benghazi. They're not going to tell you about anything, actually. They're not even going to tell you about the CIA station chief. They're going to bury it. If the Washington Post didn't come out with it, then we wouldn't have heard about it. And it was them that had to correct it. The media corrected it.
But here's my favorite part of that, Joanne. The media being controlled that way, look who's in the media. Look at all these people using them for propaganda machines. If these aren't the same people, they put the same people in power like they always have. Let's put it back this way. You know that we've all traced Obama's but his learning experiences and life experiences back to the weather underground.
Yes.
Okay. You have all these
and every
people
radical at Harvard or...
Right. And look what they did. They infiltrated academia. They turned around, and they're producing more and more and more thought tanks, and they have all these easily influenced kids. These kids out there looking for some sort of knowledge. They're out of high school. They don't know what they're trying to do. We've all been there. You know what it's like. You don't know what to do after high school. Should I go to college?
They want to belong to a cause.
Right. And then you still want to try and fit in. And when you go in, and everybody's all highbrow, and they're drinking their coffees, and they're going to the coffee house, and they're writing poetry, and they're doing all these things, and everybody's trying to get in there, and they're filling these with their heads. They're changing history little by little, so you don't see it. Just one word at a time. One word at a time. One word at a time. And it's taken on. It's gone from the 60s to count, and now we're in it again.
Right.
And it's taken that time. Now, how long is it going to take to go back in a different direction? Now, just like everything else, there's change throughout the world. And, you'll have your good times, your bad times, the dark ages, the middle ages, the bronze age. And centuries and decades in like lifetimes all change.
Yeah,
when does the pendulum swing back, and how long does it take for the pendulum to swing back? And how do we stop that? How do we stop the pendulum?
I have no idea, Jesse, but all I know is we got to keep going. These
right.
media sites, though, they're losing their viewership and listenership left and right. Even that guy, Savage, his radio show, he canceled his radio show. We got more problems, though, and the media is not even going to touch these things. Like the State Department promoting a Muslim cleric who backed fatwa against U.S. soldiers. This is from the Washington Free Beacon. The State Department Counterterrorism, CT Bureau, promoted on Friday a controversial Muslim scholar whose organization has reportedly backed Hamas and endorsed a fatwa authorizing the murder of U.S. soldiers in Iraq. The Counterterrorism Bureau tweeted out a link to the official website of Sheikh Abdullah bin Baya, the vice president of the International Union of Muslim Scholars, a controversial organization founded by a Muslim Brotherhood leader who has called for the death of Jews and Americans and himself is banned from visiting the United States. Bin Baya is reported to have been one of several clerics who endorsed a 2004 fatwa that endorsed resistance against Americans fighting in Iraq. PJ Media, as a matter of fact, reported that in 2013 when Bin Baya met with Obama's National Security Council staff at the White House. Remember that? Anyhow, the Counterterrorism Bureau, they said that Bin Baya's site, they put a link on there. He's condemning the kidnapping of hundreds of Nigerian girls by the Boko Haram. However, Bin Baya himself is known to back controversial causes. So this brings me back. I mean, this article continues about this Bin Baya, and they have actively aided al-Qaeda, and the Obama administration came under fire in June 2013 for holding a meeting with Bin Baya at the White House. He was confirmed to have met with members of Obama's National Security Council at the White House to discuss poverty and global health efforts. What the heck was this terrorist doing in our White House? Youssef Kawadari, the Egyptian Muslim Brotherhood leader who founded the IUMS, where Bin Baya served as vice president, has been called a theologian of terror by the Anti-Defamation League. And Bin Baya himself has advocated for the criminalization of the denigration of religious symbols, which critics call an infringement on free speech. So now this guy endorsed a fatwa against U.S. soldiers, and they hired him to be a cleric, a chaplain for the military. He wants them dead, the same way that guy Nadal Hassan, with the Fort Hood shooting. Yeah, the same guy. So what? Do you remember when Extortion 17, those soldiers came home in flag-draped coffins, and there was a cleric there who cursed their souls to hell in Arabic? Nobody understood what he was saying? Well, he's with this group. Same group. That's a slap.
Well, it's like the green-on-green shootings that we're having over in Afghanistan and Iraq. And they're turning around, and the people that we are training are turning and firing guns against us and killing our own soldiers. So we have to appease them. So you got to put your Muslims in there because it's against the religion. It's funny. Muslims cannot kill other Muslims. It's part of the Quran. You can't kill another Muslim.
That's what happened in Benghazi. That's what happened in Benghazi. The security that we hired couldn't kill other Muslims on behalf of infidels.
Right. So wait a minute. I paid you to protect me, but you're not going to protect me against, say, the people like you. You're not going to protect me against you. Then that's almost like paying off the mafia and still having them come in and break your windows and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I already paid you for protection, and now you're going to come in and still destroy my stuff? I mean, really?
Yeah, well, that's February 17th Martyr Brigade. They were hired to secure our Benghazi consulates. And clearly in their contract it says if the chips hit the fan, that they can't fight other Muslims on behalf of an infidel. So
why do I need you as my security?
Here. Yeah, so why do we even have to hire them anyhow if they couldn't protect you? Let's talk about this VA situation for a second. The Boston Globe and the LA Times, both liberal, far left liberal newspapers, are saying that Obama is incompetent and that he's detached. I have no idea when they got the clue, but the Globe reporter, Jeff Jacoby, said this yesterday. Breitbart put this out. It says, the scandal at the Veterans Administration is rocking the Obama regime and may yet be one of the worst scandals of the Obama era. Already, 2 major newspapers are starting to accuse the Obama administration of utter incompetence. In fact, a lack of competence is exactly how columnist for the Boston Globe, Jeff Jacoby, put it on May 25th. Jacoby points out that Obama ran on the claim that he would be the perfect manager because he would put all the right sort of intellectual liberal managers in place while he ran herd on them all. As he first vied for president in 2008, Obama got the endorsement of most voters because of his promise of competence. Voters, encouraged by newspaper endorsements that saw in Obama's campaign a marvel of sound management, that was from the Globe, and backed him because he offered more competence than drama, that was from the LA Times, ate it up. In an astonishing 76% of respondents in a CNN ORC poll shortly after the 2008 election agreed that Obama could manage the government effectively. However, as Jacoby painfully points out, today's reality stands in stark contrast to the fantasy Obama candidate in 2008, with the latest strike of the VA scandal against him. 5 years of Obama's presidency have certainly shattered that delusion, Jacoby wrote. I can't believe Jacoby even typed those words.
But the thing is that they endorsed him for a second term.
Yeah.
They endorsed him for re-election.
The guy's been around almost 6 years now. They're still blaming Bush.
Right. Well,
they're still blaming Bush.
He couldn't manage a popsicle stand.
No. Well, Obama, you want to blame Bush? Great. Blame Bush. You want to chase that? Go right ahead. In the meantime, this guy's been around almost 6 years. What part of it is his responsibility? He actually is the President of the United States. Think maybe we might lay a little responsibility on the dude?
He just the United States just like you did, like Friday. You only learned that Friday like you did on the news, same way you did. Woke up and said, oh, I'm President. Oh, no way, really?
Well, and who's running the show if he hears everything on the news?
Well, I don't know, man, but he better get up to times. I mean, seriously. He should get an internet.
He should actually listen to shows like ours because we could tell him the news a lot sooner than the mainstream media.
Yeah, exactly. He learned about it Friday. 5 minutes ago, he learned about this.
Yeah, well, they're saying that he's detached and incompetent. Even CNN, John King on Sunday, Inside Politics.
It's an election year. The president's poll ratings are down. They have to pull back and make it good looking for the candidates, so the candidates can say, I was for it before I was against it. I'm sorry, I was against it before I was for it. However it looks good for me, that's how I want it.
Yeah, well, that's not how it worked out.
Say. $5. Yeah. I'll bet you $5 right now, Joanne. $5.
Nah, a friendly dollar.
A friendly dollar. How about a friendly dollar?
Even John King, that guy on CNN, on Inside Politics yesterday, he noted that more and more Democrats in key 2014 races are calling for the president to get a spine, they say, and to fire his Veterans Affairs Secretary, Eric Shinseki. And what's more and more Democrats are saying privately is scathing. They call on the president and his team detached, flat-footed, and even incompetent. All right, before we go on any further, JoJo has her hand raised. Don't hang up, Jesse, because we're going to say hi to JoJo here. Hey, JoJo.
Hey, Jesse. Thanks for filling in.
Oh, anytime, JoJo. How are you doing, my dear?
That's pretty good. Two Boston accents at one time is kind of wild.
I know. Can you guys understand us?
Yeah, we do park the car. Not in Harvard yet. I don't have a residence sticker. I'll get towed.
Hey, use your blinker.
Use your blinker. Look for your khakis.
My khakis? Hey, like the pants are the real khakis. Which ones?
Yeah, well, if I could find the car keys, I'd be out of here.
Yeah.
If I could find my car keys, I wouldn't be parked in Harvard Yard no more. Get that car, move it. Come on.
The worst word she says or tries to say is squirrel. We all get a kick out
Squirrel?
of that. Yeah.
A squirrel?
Yeah, like
Squirrel.
a secret squirrel.
Yeah, it's a squirrel. Rocky Raccoon.
Yeah.
Anyhow, I'm sorry.
So nothing's going to happen with the VA scandal.
No. I don't
well,
see it either.
actually, I got to tell you something. Shinseki is leaving, and I know this for a fact. You want to know how I know it? Because your girl Landrio over there in Louisiana, and the other one that's going against
Landrew.
All right, Landrew. Well, her and that other chick Grimes, who's running against McConnell, they're both calling for Shinseki to leave. Now, you all know damn well there is no way they would open their mouth and call for his resignation if it wasn't approved by the White House.
But he resigned 8 months ago. He said he was leaving. So he's leaving anyway. They're just going to fluff it up a little bit.
Yeah, well, they're going to turn it around.
Well, he knew.
All these calls from Democrats for him to leave, so they're going to try to make Grimes and Landrew look like some sort of hero, like they got rid of Shinseki, when Shinseki's going all along. Like Jojo just said, he already handed in his resignation 8 months ago.
He had the heads up. He was trying to get out before all this stuff happened. He's still in the midst of it. Now they're going to pin it all on him, and when he gets fired, everything will be all hunky-dory again. Basically, he's a patsy and a fall guy because he was already leaving.
Just like Lerner, just like all of them.
All it is, they're all going to get a big fat check. They're all going to sit there, and they're going to still do their little walking and speaking tours. They're going to get their millions of dollars. They're going to have still all their protections and all their connections. The only thing that's going to change is the person sitting in that chair. And that's the only thing. The same policies will be in effect. The same management will be there. The only thing that's going to change is the name on the door.
And then they're going to blow up this BS about privatizing some VA, sending some of the VA veterans to private hospitals. The private hospitals are going to be just as bad, if not worse, than the VA. So all in all, nobody's going to have health care. Not only the veterans, nobody else. So it's all.
Well, Jojo, that is actually the end game. That's the end game because right in front of me. Right in front of me, Pelosi was blaming Bush for the VA scandal, but then she suggested that Obamacare might hold the key to solving the problem. We have the Affordable Care Act that's out there and providing resources for more federally qualified health clinics around the country. So now she's going to turn the VA into an Obamacare situation. She's going to give them all Obamacare. Try getting help with Obamacare. They got better care now with the VA than they're ever going to get on Obamacare.
Exactly.
Your windows keep getting broken. Hey, you give me some money and I'll make sure your windows don't get broken no more, and everybody will be okay. I'll fix it for you. Don't worry.
Yeah, you know that? You're right.
Keep looking at the tactics. It's amazing. I mean, they're following the mafia rule book by like to a T. It's amazing. It's amazing. That's why they got rid of the organized crime, because they are all organized crime. They're all powerful.
Yeah, well, there's also one more real sucky thing that's going on with the veterans. Real sucky. The bodies of 28 veterans at the Los Angeles County morgue are finally going to receive a proper burial. After a year and a half, it doesn't take a year and a half to do paperwork to get those veterans buried.
I'm wondering if they were homeless veterans. They never said, but I'm wondering. I don't think they were veterans that came home from the war, did.
Well, the morgue says that the bodies were unclaimed, and they don't know how long the veterans were there. And the law states that veterans are supposed to receive a proper burial. The VA said they were never notified the bodies were processed and ready to be buried. And more than 24 bodies were transported to the Riverside National Cemetery Friday afternoon, and more could be moved as they are identified. On Friday evening, KCAL 9, Stacey Butler reported the L.A. County morgue and the VA were blaming each other for the mistakes. Butler reported from the national ceremony where the bodies are scheduled for burial, and she spoke to citizens who are outraged at how the deceased vets were treated. So, they're all blaming each other.
They're bound to be homeless, to be unclaimed and unknown or whatever.
Oh, I moved out to California to get away from the snow and just never kept in touch with their families. Maybe homeless, Well, but, you run their names and you find out they're a veteran, you hand them over to the veterans. and they say,
well,
we got to do the paperwork a year and a half. I'm absolutely furious about that. So, guess what? You know that the Obama administration has armed every single federal organization to the teeth, including like the Department of Agriculture. You know, we expecting a rumble from Killer Carrots, like the tomato invasion or something. We need heavy-powered weapons for the USDA. Well, now...
they do need them. The USDA is running food stamp cards across the border. The border is very dangerous. So if we're running our food stamp cards over into Mexico and the USDA is going back and forth across the border, they need semi-automatic weapons.
Yeah, well, how come they don't get arrested and thrown in jail like that Marine? Yeah, Holder should be in jail. Now, the Justice Department is going to
hang up from you for a moment.
All right, Jesse, I want to thank you very much for calling in.
Wait a minute. Hold on. My brother's telling me something. Oh, they're tied into the Bureau of Land Management. That's why they need the weapons.
Yeah, well, what are they funneling these? Are they using, like, the Department of Agriculture budget to buy weapons and then funneling them somewhere else?
No, they're all part of the same entities.
Yeah, well, right now, the Justice Department decided that it's going to start updating a report on how many guns the federal government actually has. So, for the first time, Justice has addressed the topic. And it comes as conservatives and libertarian complaints about an excessively gun-happy government have intensified. So, looks like we got some backscatter noise here.
Jesse.
I don't know.
I'll mute. We'll see if it's me.
No, that might have been you. All right, JoJo. Jesse, you still there? Nope, Jesse hung up. JoJo, I guess it wasn't you.
All right.
All right.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's better. It had to be Jesse. He has 5 kids, so if there's background noise, it's definitely understandable. Anyhow, this is going to be the first time that the Justice has addressed the topic in 6 years, and says the issue was central to the recent controversy generated by a standoff between rancher Cliven Bundy and the agents from the Bureau of Land Management in Nevada. And Bundy and his supporters argued that armed federal government threatened too much force in a dispute over grazing in public lands, but it was really over a fee. You have all these armed guys, none of whom have law enforcement authority. This show found that out. They have no law enforcement authority. They had no business aiming guns at American citizens. They have no powers of arrest, no training other than being hired mercenaries. And they had guns pointed at American citizens. I don't care if you agree with Cliven Bundy or you don't. You have to know that they were American citizens that had guns pointed at them by hired thugs, hired by the federal government, not federal law enforcement, hired thugs. So now the Justice Department, the Bureau of Justice Statistics, is going to undertake this year's report, and it's going to begin surveying federal agencies. How many times, JoJo, have we talked about this agency or that agency is ordering hollow point bullets? You know, hollow point bullets cannot be used on the battlefield, so they're not going to soldiers. That would be against the Geneva Convention. So who are they going to use the hollow points on, JoJo?
They're using them for target practice.
Yeah.
That's what they're
using.
But I mean, we got the Department of Education, the U.S. Post Office, the IRS, everything. Everybody gets guns. Now what do we say? Agriculture, Department of Agriculture.
Yeah. The Social Security Office.
But the Border Patrol gets beanbags. Boy, that makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, Border Patrol gets beanbags.
And paintball guns, or airsoft guns.
Yep. And actually, they're not even getting those anymore. They're just going to get stun guns and pepper spray. No more heavy artillery on the border. As a matter of fact, Texas said, forget you. We'll secure our own border. And so far, I've been doing a pretty good job of it. Everybody's getting mad at them, too.
Texas needs to go down there and take care of their own state. You know, you can't sit on the fence.
Right. Well, Texas has got it going on now. In the meantime, you have a Democrat calling for federal gun control against the people. So now we just told you how many guns and who has the guns and everything with the federal government. Why would they want to disarm the people? Well, Anthony Martin put out a good article today. You all know Anthony Martin. He works for the Examiner. He's a gun rights advocate. He was one of the reporters that have kept the Fast and Furious story alive, along with Sipsey Street Irregulars, Mike Vanderbilt, and Cheryl Atkinson. If it wasn't for that crew, we probably wouldn't even heard of Fast and Furious. But now he's got this article, and he writes, "This is a special liberty alert for citizens who are serious about protecting their liberties and freedom. The anti-gun tyrants, both inside and outside of government, have renewed their calls for massive nationwide gun control laws. The renewed push is in response to the shootings in California over the weekend." We're going to talk about that too, by the way, because I find that to be very fishy and too neatly packaged. Anyhow, U.S. Senator Richard Blumenthal, a Democrat from Connecticut, appeared as a guest Sunday morning on Face the Nation to renew calls for drastic and restrictive gun control laws in response to the shootings. The march towards nationwide firearms restrictions as a consequence of the massacre at Sandy Hook Elementary School in Connecticut served as the impetus for the push for gun restrictions. While several states in the Northeast succeeded in passing such laws, the movement fizzled as a result of the country making it clear that it's grossly unfair to blame all citizens for the action of a tiny minority of dangerous criminals or severely mentally ill persons. It's presumed that Blumenthal's renewed push to infringe on a right that the Constitution clearly states shall not be infringed will meet the same fate as the anti-gun push that occurred just after Sandy Hook. But when it comes to the forces of anti-freedom who wish to restrict citizens' gun rights across the board, it's a mistake to presume anything. Collectivists never give up in their attempts to attack and roll back human liberty. In addition, it should be noted that the latest shooting in California occurred in a state that has some of the strictest gun control laws in the nation. The collectivists, who have managed to take over state government from the governor's office to the legislature and to its 2 U.S. senators, have made sure that wacko environmentalist extremists have crippled the state's economy and to make sure that ordinary citizens are deprived of the use of their guns. Yet it's here where the latest massacre occurred. The same thing was true about Connecticut. The anti-freedom opportunists further failed to mention that 3 of those killed in California were stabbed, not shot. Yet so far no one, not Senator Blumenthal, not the left-wing family of the shooter, and nobody in the mainstream media has called for knife control on knife bans. In fact, most news reports failed to even emphasize the fact that 3 of the victims were stabbed to death. College students in California are unarmed, disallowed to carry guns, making them sitting ducks for madmen who go on murderous rampages. Taking these matters a step further, information has been passed along that the vast Liberty Underground movement is taking the latest gun control push very seriously and with some degree of alarm. Gun rights activists lost a major case in D.C. recently when a judge ruled that its infringement on the Second Amendment did not violate the Constitution, in spite of a Supreme Court ruling just a few years ago that struck down most of D.C.'s oppressive firearm laws. Many believe that another shakedown is headed for the Supreme Court over gun rights, and this time Second Amendment supporters may be handed a bitter and disappointing loss. So, guys, you got to pay attention to this. They're coming for the guns. You know, people tell us all the time, nah, they can't do that. Well, my dear, yes, they can. Not only can they do it, they are doing it, and they're calling for even more. You saw the SAFE Act get passed in New York. You saw all the anti-gun stuff going on in New Jersey, in Connecticut, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, California. California is one of the most strict gun control states in the nation. And then you got Chicago, Chicago, Illinois. They're all calling for gun control, but you forget that they already have gun control. They already have that you can't carry, you can't open carry, you can't conceal carry, you can't have bullets, you can't have magazines. They even closed the last lead smelter in the country. So they're coming in the back door, and they're going after the banks. All these gun companies who manufacture guns, they can't even get a bank account. So when people tell you, no, they can't come after the guns, yes, they can, and they're doing it in the backdoor way. They may not take your gun, but you're not going to get a bullet, and you're not going to be able to get a magazine, and you're not going to be able to buy any parts. And if you're going to manufacture guns, you're not getting a bank account. And you can't sell them online. So, yes, they absolutely are coming for the guns. I want to talk a little bit about that Santa Barbara killer, too. Let me open JoJo's microphone, though. She's got her hand raised. She's back. You back, JoJo?
Hello. Yeah, I had a blowout in front of us, so I had to hang up real quick.
Oh. The Santa Barbara killer, all right? I want to talk about him. His name is Elliot Rogers. He left a 141-page manifesto in which he revealed hatred of women and an obsession with the California State Lottery. Several times throughout the text, he recalls playing the Mega Millions and Powerball games and his bitter disappointment when he failed to win. In one passage he wrote, "Becoming a multimillionaire at a young age is what I am meant for. I bought a few Mega Millions lottery tickets and visualized myself being the winner. After failing to win, when the jackpot reset because someone else won, I lost all faith. Later, he recounted, I believed that it was destiny for me to win the Mega Millions lottery, particularly this very jackpot. But to my profound frustrations, I didn't win." That's a little narcissistic, if you ask me. Now, he goes on and he writes about this young girl. She's 10, he's 12, and she rejects him, so now all women suck. All right, well, when they're banning guns, why don't they ban women? Women, it was actually his problem, right? All right, so I spent a couple of hours, many hours, over the weekend reading this manifesto that it was allegedly written by this kid. They also told us that the kid had mental illness, that he had Asperger's. I will address that in a second, but I don't believe he does. Now, this manifesto, as I'm reading it, I can see at least 3 different writing styles, sentence structure, paragraph structure. He did not write that manifesto himself. There was 3 different styles. What kid, 22 years old, writes a 141-page manifesto? All right, let's get down to the video where this kid is in the car, and he's going on, and his voice is fluctuating, and he's showing emotion, and he's, blobbing around and using his hands in conversation. Asperger kids don't do that. Their voices don't fluctuate.
High-functioning Aspergers can do all that.
Well, I have seen several Asperger's kids, adults and young people, and the ones that are highly communicative, they still have that monotone to them. And that's the one thing that I found common in all of them. I don't think I'm explaining it right. The fluctuations that this kid has are more animated, more like this kid in the video is an actor. And I don't think this is real. I think we're looking at crisis actors, is my point. I don't believe a word of this. It's just too neatly packaged, and it fits too many agendas. And it's in California, at the University of California, Santa Barbara campus, right? Guess who the president of the University of California is? Janet Napolitano.
Oh, that's right. That's her
Homeland Security Secretary. Yes. This just seems to me to be some sort of a drill. All right, now, in the story about this young girl who's afraid now because she was mentioned in this manifesto, her father's telling the story, and he says that she doesn't even remember him. She was 10. He was older than her. He was her brother's age. So he was 12 when she was 10. And, maybe she did reject him. She doesn't remember. But then as the story goes on, she says, well, he said that the girl said, well, he was weird back then. So she does or she doesn't remember him. You can't have both.
No. Well, I don't know because I haven't looked into that story at all, other than just seeing a headline or two.
Yeah, well, this is really, really fishy to me. And
well, how many people got
maybe
killed?
It did happen. Maybe it did, but I'm finding all kinds of discrepancies, JoJo.
Did about 8 people get killed, including him, or something like that?
Yeah, he got killed. And his face was blown off. They said that they had to identify him with the parents' DNA.
Oh.
Yeah, so now I don't know, even in the video of this kid when he's in the car and he's talking about, what he's going to do, and he was glad he didn't get caught by the cops. Look at the kid's face. Look at the makeup on the kid. A woman would be able to tell you that he's wearing eyeliner and lip liner and lip gloss. Men might not be able to notice it, but women will notice it. Also, as the lighting changes, the camera changes. And there's background noise in the beginning, but that gets squelched out. He doesn't move his hands to touch the camera or the phone or whatever his alleged recording device is, but he doesn't do it. So who's there filming him? And if you look at the pictures of him in different clothing and different hairstyles, you'll see that they're reverse negatives of this kid. They're photoshopped. Sometimes his hair's parted on the right, sometimes it's flopped over to the left. It's the same face, the same angle of his face in all the pictures. They use one picture and manipulate it into several different pictures, changing the clothes and stuff. You can pixel out any type of clothing, and you can reverse the picture. Really, it just, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe I'm over analyzing it. But I don't think so. I think there's something very fishy about this, and it fits perfectly into that agenda.
Does he have the same look on his face that Holmes and Laughlin did?
Nope. No. This kid looks like a heavily made-up actor. This is just really fishy. And then to have it happen on Nappy's campus, in and around Nappy's campus.
Yeah, and Nappy, I guess, hadn't made no statement.
No, Nappy didn't make a statement. But now, 2 of his roommates were Chinese kids. They were stabbed. The kid allegedly at the deli, he was stabbed, but then they said he was shot. Then they went back to saying he was stabbed. So the men were stabbed, the women were shot. One of the girls, she was going to study abroad, and not too many people knew her. How convenient. And one's father is blaming the NRA. What the hell did the NRA have to do with that? The NRA doesn't hate women. It doesn't stab people or shoot people.
Well, that's just because the left coast, they want to blame everything on the NRA.
All right, well, the kid has a recent Facebook page, not one that's been there for years, but for several months.
Yeah, that's a pattern, too. You ever notice that pattern?
Mm-hmm.
That's a big pattern.
Yeah, all of a sudden they get a Facebook page, and then they commit a mass murder.
3 days before an event. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, this kid's Facebook page, he's got pictures of him in England, and he's got pictures of himself in the business class on an airliner. He's got pictures of him in DeLoreans and Mercedes-Benz and at concerts and stuff. Just, not a whole bunch of pictures, but enough. So here is this wealthy kid, allegedly, son of a big director. His mother's Chinese. She's some sort of a mucky-muck, too. And he hates women. A handsome kid, loaded in money, world traveler, and he can't get a date. But everybody says, well, the cop said, well, he appeared perfectly normal. The parents said that he had deep-rooted
maybe he didn't
problems.
like women.
Yeah, well, maybe he didn't, but he's mad at all women. So instead of banning guns, what are they going to do next? Ban women?
Yeah,
we're all going to have to wear burqas now because we might set off some screwball?
Yeah. Hey, I'm going to have to hang up for a little while because we got to unload the car, so I'll call back in just a little bit.
All right.
All right, bye.
Anyhow, I think that this is a little bit much to be trying to swallow. So, I don't know. Take it for what it's worth, but I'm really having some doubts about this. All right, let's take our first commercial break. And when we get back, we have a ton more news to get to. So stick around. And we are back live. Thank you for sticking around. You're listening to Moretti Underground, the Liberty Report, right here at PRN Radio Network, the exclusive home of the Watchmen of America program. Hey, Watchmen. I'm Joanne Moretti, and my co-hosts, Jesse and JoJo, are around here somewhere. They're listening, but both of them have some background stuff. As you know, it's a holiday weekend, so that's okay. And our colleagues in the chat room, Anna had to leave, but AstroTurf is still there, Lynn's still there, probably a few others too. They've been putting all the links into the chat room and put, all kinds of information and things like that in there. And I want to thank them. They're just the best. So please say hi to them. All right, let's continue on with some news here. There was a strange, actually the word used was bizarre, secret meeting at the White House the other day. Ulsterman put out a little story. He picked it up from the White House dossier. Ulsterman says, for those paying attention, just more of the same. But for Senator Bob Corker, a ranking member of the powerful Senate Foreign Policy Committee, a recent sit-down at the Obama White House was a large serving of the bizarre. From the White House dossier. I've never heard of a U.S. Senator meeting with senior White House officials and then afterward calling the session bizarre. But that's what Senator Bob Corker of Tennessee, the top Republican member of the Senate Foreign Policy Committee, termed a secret gathering Tuesday night that included 14 senators, 11 Democrats, 3 Republicans, who met with White House Chief of Staff Dennis McDonough and National Security Advisor Susan Rice. First of all, President Obama didn't even drop by. You have the ranking member of the Foreign Relations Committee in the West Wing for what was, I'm sure, a very rare trip to the White House, and he doesn't even see the president. This is the only White House I've covered where senior senators go to the West Wing to meet with staff, not the president. The White House thinks it's repairing relations with Congress, finally, but it's actually insulting lawmakers instead. According to the Associated Press, another senator who attended the meeting said Obama's advisors refused to provide lawmakers with answers about whether the president plans to keep U.S. troops in Afghanistan after the war formally concludes later this year, or about the Pentagon's efforts to find nearly 300 kidnapped Nigerian schoolgirls. I'm sure they just sat there in disbelief as Rice and McDonough refused to tell them anything, and then started wondering what they were doing there. Eventually, senators just started leaving, even before the meeting was over. I've never heard of that either, unless there was some urgent matter or a vote on Capitol Hill. You don't otherwise leave the White House meeting unless you're really either being disrespected or getting nothing of value out of it. Such ham-handedness brought to you by the same people who brought you healthcare.gov. Now, Elsterman says, indeed, Barack Obama refuses to meet with most members of Congress for a couple of reasons. One, he believes himself above such meetings. 2, it might reveal what is well known within the Obama inner circle. This president of the United States knows shockingly little about the actual events going on around him. Barack Obama is a manufactured figure of scripts. He is given words, pointed to a podium, and then returned to the closet where he's free to golf, watch ESPN, or anything else. That's been the pattern of this White House since day one. The world is wise to it. But thanks to the great wall of media bias, the empty suit that is Barack Obama remains intact. Nice job, Ulsterman. And why would you invite Bob Corker or any of those senators to the White House to talk about absolutely nothing? That does sound very bizarre to me, too. And we're going to get to these Nigerian schoolgirls in a minute, too, because we found some stuff out about that. But before we get to that, you all heard that the Senate, they didn't have any time to work on any real pressing problems, but they did have a meeting and a vote to discuss the Washington Redskins and how they feel that the Redskins should change their name. Well, the Redskins told Harry Reid to mind your own business and sent him a letter, by the way. I have the letter here. They pretty much told him, listen, Mr. Reid, you don't know anything about us. You don't know anything about our history. You don't even know that Indians helped us with our logo and how much we do with the Native American community and how they're not upset. Only you're upset for some stupid, politically correct reason that you think that you have to change the name of an NFL football team. Isn't there something more pressing that you should be doing, Mr. Reid? But the letter starts, first, Capitalism Institute says, last week, Senate Democrats took time out of their busy schedule to tackle what Harry Reid said is one of the biggest issues facing America right now. Did they figure out how to balance the budget and pay down the debt? Maybe they figured out how to scale back job-killing regulations to take on the high unemployment rate or stagnant economy. Perhaps they reached an agreement to actually secure our southern border and stem the tide of illegal immigrants and drugs and terrorists. No, they didn't address any of those things. They sent a letter to the NFL and the Washington Redskins demanding that they change their name because they believe it's racist towards Native Americans. In what can only be described as epic, Bruce Allen, the president of the Washington Redskins organization, shot back a letter of his own, kindly telling Reed to get lost and get back to work dealing with real issues, explaining in simple terms for even Reed and the rest of the Senate Dems to understand the history of the Redskins name and the broad acceptance of it nationwide. The letter goes on, it says, after reading your May 21st, 2014 letter to the New York Times and Commissioner Goodell, I believe that you may not have provided all of the pertinent facts and true history of the Washington Redskins. The Washington Redskins are one of the NFL's flagship franchises. We have played in 11 NFL championship games and have won 5 world championships. With over 81 years of tradition created by thousands of alumni and millions of fans, the Redskins team name continues to carry a deep and purposeful meaning. Please allow me to offer a few important facts. The term Redskins originated as a Native American expression of solidarity. The Smithsonian Institute senior linguist Ives Goddard, a top scholar of Native American languages, researched the origin of the name Redskins and concluded that it originated as an expression of solidarity among multi-tribal delegations traveling to Washington to negotiate with the government on the Native American policies. So in his words, the actual origin of the word Redskins is entirely benign and reflects more positive aspects of relationships between Indians and whites. The logo was designed by Native Americans. In 1971, our current logo was designed and approved by Native American leaders. An overwhelming majority of Native Americans do not find the name offensive. It goes on, it says, the highly respected Annenberg Public Policy Center of the University of Pennsylvania surveyed Native Americans nationally and reported that an overwhelming 90% of respondents said the name was not offensive. So the Native Americans don't find it offensive. Also, the vast majority of Americans are in favor of keeping the team name. In 2014, the Associated Press conducted a national survey confirming that 83% of Americans said they're in favor of keeping the Washington Redskins name. So, Harry Reid and the rest of you Democrat senators, what's your problem? Isn't there something better you could be doing? That's the bottom line on that. Hey, did you guys all hear that John Conyers, who's been in office for 49 years, did not make the ballot? Yeah, he didn't get the amount of signatures that he needed, and he took it to court. Well, first he took it to the Secretary of State, and the Secretary of State says, look, it clearly states right here you have to have this many signatures. You don't have that many signatures. No, you can't be on the ballot. So he appealed it, and he found a judge who put Conyers back on the ballot, even without the signatures. You know why? Because he had good intentions. He intended to get the signatures. Well, I intended to get the signatures to be president, so you're going to put me on the ballot? I really did intend that. I just didn't actually get the signatures. But according to this rationale, I guess you could. Breitbart's put out an article that says this election year, Democrat and longtime Congressman John Conyers did not satisfy Michigan election laws by getting enough valid signatures on his nomination petitions. So the state ruled he did not qualify for the ballot. Now, a federal judge has vacated the state's decision and put Conyers back on the ballot. The congressman's 49-year career was threatened with a sudden ending if he didn't make the primary ballot. But Conyers can now breathe a sigh of relief as a federal judge has stepped in to challenge state authorities. U.S. District Judge Matthew Leitman, Leitman, an Obama nominee who has only been on the bench for 2 months, is now insisting that some of the state's findings are incorrect. Citing Conyers' good intentions, Judge Leitman said in his Friday afternoon ruling, there is evidence that their failure to comply with the registration statute was the result of good faith mistakes and that they believe they were in compliance with the statute. On May 9th, Wayne County, Michigan officials determined that Conyers was just over 500 signatures short of having enough to qualify for the ballot and suggested the state election board that his name should be removed. He had under 500 signatures, just over 500 signatures. He only needed 1,000. You can't find 1,000 people in Michigan to sign a petition for this guy to say he should be on the ballot? And he's been there 49 years? What's going on up there in Michigan? Anyhow, that's got to tell you something, guys. Watch. He's going to get back in. They're going to reelect him, aren't they? I just can't even believe any of this. But there he is. He's back on the ballot. We got this other Harvard professor. You know how we all love and respect these Harvard professors, these liberal left-leaning professors. We got this dude here. He's started a big money super PAC. Know what his cause is? Fighting big money super PACs. He's collecting millions and millions of dollars from deep pocket donors to fight deep pocket donors. Does this make sense to anybody? Because that's actually the truth. That's what's going on here. From the Daily Caller, Harvard Law School professor Lawrence Lessig, Lessig, launched a political action committee this month that will raise millions of dollars in an attempt to prevent political action committees, except his, of course, from influencing elections. Daily Caller is not making this up. The Harvard professor is Lawrence Lessig, and Campus Reform reported his super PAC is called the Mayday PAC. In an inaugural video about his anti-super PAC, the left-leaning Lessig swears he totally doesn't have an agenda except that he detests a healthcare system that costs too much and does too little, and he believes climate change remains totally unaddressed, except that, and a bunch of other stuff. Much like Lessig complains, politicians still spend endless time raising money. That part is true. From the day they get in that office, they're on the phone raising money. All their staff is who does all the work, because the politicians are on the phone all day raising money. And he who raises the most money gets the best cabinet posts and committee posts. Anyhow, he's also bothered by the fact that politicians raise money from the tiniest fraction of the 1%. Lessig then announces that he will match small monetary donations from regular people with a few huge contributors from ultra-wealthy supporters that he refuses to name. The goal of the Mayday PAC are ambitious. The Harvard professor wants to raise $12 million by June on the premise of suppressing political speech so his PAC can influence the 2014 midterms. So he wants to take big money out of elections by using big money to sway elections. That's Harvard for you, ladies and gentlemen. I couldn't even resist telling you about that. It really doesn't mean much other than that, you got a wealthy guy putting the squeeze on wealthy guys so that wealthy guys can't play politics or something. I don't know. You all heard about this minimum wage thing, right? And you heard that there were employees from McDonald's at the corporate offices in Chicago, and they have been demanding a $15 an hour minimum wage at McDonald's. Well, it's not just McDonald's. It's places like Wendy's and Burger King and Panera's Bakery. As a matter of fact, Panera's said, well, you know what we're going to do? We're going to replace our cashiers with kiosks. Panera's, as you know, is a bakery, coffee shop. It's an internet cafe, actually, and they have soups and sandwiches, things like that. From the Business Insider, the fast casual chain will start adding about 8 kiosks per restaurant, writes Vanessa Wong at Bloomberg's Business Week. Customers will also be able to order by phone. As a result, there will be 1 or 2 fewer cashiers in restaurants. That's what they say originally. Panera Bread CEO Ron Shaich said the new system would help accuracy of orders. Customers would also be able to customize their food. Shaich told Business Week that it won't be cutting back on workers. The former cashiers will now carry food to customers' tables. The dirty little secret in the food industry is 1 in 7 orders is wrong, Shaich told Business Week. We're 1 in 10, a little better than average, and half of those inaccuracies happen during order input. Shaich hopes the new system will slow service issues. Panera Bread isn't the only company implementing electronic ordering. McDonald's is testing a tablet program that would let customers customize their burger toppings. Meanwhile, restaurants such as Applebee's and Buffalo Wild Wings are rolling out programs that let customers order and pay by tablet. All right. They can't tell Obama that, yeah, we're going to be laying off workers. We're not going to be needing these cashiers. We're going to put in kiosks. If my cashier can push a picture of a burger and a picture of French fries and a picture of a soda, so can my customer. They're the ones that are going to be ordering and eating it. They can sit at the Internet cafe at the table. They can order from their tablet without ever using a waitress and have the food brought to them by a former cashier. How many of those former cashiers do you think, on top of the wait staff that they already have, are going to be necessary? They are telling you that they're not going to be putting in, that they're not going to be laying off people. But does anybody out there absolutely believe that? I know minimum wage is lousy. If you're working in a minimum wage job, you're not going to be happy. You're not going to be able to afford your family. But why is that McDonald's business? McDonald's or Panera or any one of these companies, a pizza shop or, Joann's Fabrics, if they can't afford to pay you and make a profit, they're still going to make a profit. They're just not going to pay you. They'll find a way around you. And when you start demanding $15 an hour, when you see people with higher skills, college graduates only making $15 an hour, then, it makes you think you're so important you can't be replaced. McDonald's I'm using McDonald's as an example, but I'm not trying to dog them in any way. They're a business. They're an American business. A lot of kids coming up through the ranks have had temporary jobs at McDonald's or summer jobs or, people who are between jobs or parents who can only work a couple hours a day because they have school-age children. That's the jobs that they depend on. And, yeah, $15 an hour would be nice, but make sure it gets worth it. They have cheap burgers, cheap fries. They have a dollar menu. You're going to need 15 items off the dollar menu to pay one person's hourly wage. If you are not producing as much as it's costing to hire you, now don't forget that $15 an hour wage, that's just what you're getting. The employer, not that these people would know this, the employer has to pay overhead, stock, licenses and permits and everything to do business. You even need a milk permit. You have to pay your rent or mortgage. You have to pay your electric. You have to pay your water. You have to pay all kinds of fees and stuff. You have to pay unemployment compensation. You have to pay workers' compensation. And with Obamacare, you got to pay insurance. So that $15 an hour is now $30 an hour. But people don't understand that. People who have never run a business. So now these people are putting themselves out of work. SEIU brought a whole bunch of people to McDonald's headquarters in Chicago. Maybe 1 in 20 were actual McDonald's employees. The rest of them were day labor people that they go by the day labor, pick up a bunch of people, put a clean SEIU T-shirt on them, and pay the minimum wage for the day. Those people that are protesting are only making minimum wage, and they're not McDonald's employees. They're SEIU employees for the day, or the day labor people for the day. So we're getting scammed. But now these people aren't smart enough to realize they are protesting themselves right out of a job. Isn't $8 or $9 an hour better than no dollars an hour? And if you don't want to work at McDonald's, nobody dragged you in off the street and demanded you work behind that counter. You had to go there. You had to apply for the job. You had to pass an interview, and you had to get the job on your own. You were not forced to do that. Nobody beat you and made you walk into that McDonald's door to apply for a job. People got to start getting a clue here. It's not how it works. It just doesn't work that way. We're doing everything to put the whole country out of business. Obama actually is going to be finalizing an executive order against coal power on June 2nd. This is May 26th, folks. So that will be one promise that this Obama did keep. He said he was going to bankrupt coal, and sure, he did it. This is also from Ulsterman. Flying well under the proverbial radar is the considerable expansion on big government federal authority by way of the Environmental Protection Agency's latest assault upon the U.S. coal industry. a move that has been years in the making and likely funded in part by Saudi oil interests. Here's an excerpt by way of the far-left New Republic. On June 2nd, Obama will unveil a new set of federal regulations on power plants designed primarily to keep coal-fired plants from spewing so much carbon into the atmosphere. The hope is that these new regulations will slow down climate change, at first incrementally by reducing emissions from existing plants in the U.S., and then more dramatically by providing the administration with more leverage to negotiate a far-reaching international treaty on emissions from multiple sources. International treaty, ladies and gentlemen? Since when do we rely on an international treaty? And carbon emissions. You know, maybe next time instead of hiring lawyers, we should hire the techies from MIT to run the country. Do you know we have carbon capture capability? We have zero carbon emission technology. But regulations prevent us from using it. So the technology is there. But Obama wants to get rid of coal. He wants to get rid of oil. He wants us to be dependent on foreign measures of energy. Why would we stop producing coal and oil when we don't have the capabilities for alternative energy yet? Alternative energy is so far in the future, we cannot sustain this country on alternative energy. You know, up in the north you have wind, but down here in Florida you have very little wind unless it's raining. So you have solar. That's all well and good. I'm all for that. Do everything. You know, bring on the wind, bring on the solar plants. But don't get rid of the sources you have until you have something to replace them with. I mean, we can't be that stupid. And his executive order on June 2nd tells us that we are that stupid. I got to tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. You better watch the banks. I don't know if you all saw this, but George Soros and Paulson from Goldman Sachs and J.P. Morgan at Citi, they all started selling off their bank holdings at a loss. Why would you sell your bank holdings at a loss if you weren't trying to cut your losses? Listen to this story. This is from Suddenly John over at Tavern Keepers. In December of 2013, Soros Fund Manager, LLC, owned 2.8 million shares of J.P. Morgan and 2.3 million shares of Citi. In the first quarter of this year, which was just passed, the fund sold all of its holdings in those companies, as well as Bank of America and Goldman Sachs, even though J.P. Morgan and Citi shares were down over 7% year-to-date. This would have led to at least some loss, because the fund had the quarter before purchased stock in those two banks. Soros is not the only billionaire to sell off bank stocks. John Paulson, who, like Soros, made a fortune voting on economic meltdowns, sold 14 million shares of J.P. Morgan Chase, according to a recent filing. So considering what these two men do for a living, it's a definite possibility that they see a downturn in the banks and the market itself. Considering how much said banks and markets are living off the quantitative easing, I would say, as Soros and Paulson seem to be, that's probably a good bet. They're cutting their losses, guys. So, you know, today I was listening to the Fox Business there, and they were saying how we are at close to 0% GDP when we should be like 4% if we were in any kind of a recovery. We are not in a recovery. We're sliding backwards. If you do the numbers right, and if you listen to our guru, Carol Ray, she's been right all along. It's been declining and declining and declining, and they're fudging numbers. And now when you see Paulson and Soros selling off bank shares, take that as an omen, ladies and gentlemen. Things are about to get really, really ugly. All right, we got a few minutes left. Let's do a couple of foreign policy stories, because the Venezuelan president, Maduro, we've talked about Venezuela. We had Kiko Reed on the show. Venezuela is in serious turmoil, and it's beginning to be harder and harder to tell everybody apart down there. Well, the Venezuela president told Kerry to mind his own business. Listen to this story. This is from Reuters. Venezuela's foreign minister on Monday, today, rebuked his U.S. counterpart, John Kerry, for criticizing the handling of street protests and reiterated accusations that Washington wants to topple the socialist government. In the U.S. government's strongest comments since demonstrators began in February, Kerry said last week that Venezuela's government had shown total failure of good faith and in now suspended talks to stem the unrest. So they got out of the talks. In Venezuela's worst violence in a decade, 42 people have died during months of daily protests demanding President Nicolas Maduro's departure and solutions to economic hardships. This is not an issue that concerns Mr. John Kerry, Foreign Minister Elias Joa told reporters on Monday after returning from the regional UNASUR blocs meeting in Ecuador. Maduro, of course, became president after the death of Hugo Chavez last year, and he says the protests are a veneer for U.S.-supported conspiracy to bring him down. It's not Bolivian paranoia. These are real facts that clearly violate international law, he added, next to a photo of Chavez, who renamed the country the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela in homage to the independent hero Simon Bolivar. Anyhow, Maduro's government's blaming the U.S. for the protests, and now he's told John Kerry to mind his business. Geez, everybody's being told to mind their business. The Washington Redskins told Harry Reid to mind his business. Maduro's telling Kerry to mind his business. Well, we've been sucking up to Iran. We just released like $9 billion of their money. We've been holding Israel off from attacking them. Remember when Bibi Netanyahu was on TV and he showed us his little bomb drawing and his little red line and stuff and told us that Iran is going to be nuclear power by this spring? Well, this is the spring. Iran's leader said that jihad is going to continue until the U.S. is no more. What? I thought we were playing nice. I thought they were going to be nice to us. Doesn't look that way. They still want us dead. They want Israel dead. They want us dead. Nothing is going to change that, no matter how nice you play with these people. See, the Americans don't understand what's going on here. The Islamists cannot have peace until they have a global caliphate. When they tell you they are a peaceful religion, including Iran, they tell you they're a peaceful religion, they really plan on being peaceful right after the caliphate is complete. They can't be peaceful before the caliphate is complete. They have to be the dominant religion in the world for Muhammad to return. So you and 10 more like you aren't going to change their mind. This isn't about politics. This is about religion. All wars are fought for land or religion. This one's about religion, and that includes Iran. They want to get rid of the infidels, the great Satan America, and the little Satan Israel. That's why Obama told them that we were not a Christian country anymore. He's trying to appease them. He appeases them in every single way, including slapping our military every time he gets a chance, because our military is bad, and they're stopping the caliphate, so of course Obama's going to slap them around. Obama has the same ideology. He hates America. He hates America for past grievances in Africa. That's the total West, too, because he's not real fond of the Brits or the French either. But, we're in trouble, guys. Anyhow, the leader, the Daily Caller says, Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah al-Khamenei, all but said on Sunday that negotiations over the country's illicit nuclear program are over and that the Islamic Republic's ideals include destroying America. Those Iranians who want to promote negotiations and surrender to the oppressors and blame the Islamic Republic as warmongers, in reality commit treason, Khamenei told a meeting of the members of parliament. Khamenei emphasized that without a combative mindset, the regime cannot reach its higher Islamic goal against the oppressor's front. The reason for continuation of this battle is not the warmongering of the Islamic Republic. Logic and reason command that for Iran, in order to pass through a religion full of pirates, needs to arm itself and must have the capability to defend itself, it said. Today's world is full of thieves and plunderers of human honor, dignity, and morality, who are equipped with knowledge, wealth, and power, and under the pretense of humanity easily commit crimes and betray human ideals and start wars in different parts of the world. In response to a question by the parliamentarian on how long this battle would continue, Khomeini said, "Battle and jihad are endless because evil and its front continue to exist. This battle will only end when the society can get rid of the oppressor's front with America at the head of it, which has expanded its claws on human mind, body, and thought. This requires a difficult and lengthy struggle and need for great strides." So what he's telling you is we are going to continue with our nuclear program. We have to. We have to kill the Americans. We have to get rid of them. They're slime. They're bad. They're evil. We're not the oppressor. They are. And we have to do away with them. And Israel is just a side product, actually. The real goal is us. Now, look around you, ladies and gentlemen. Iran has places in Venezuela, bases. Iran is in cahoots with a lot of South American countries. Iran is running arms and weapons to Syria, to Lebanon, to Turkey, Jordan, Palestinians, all in an effort to defeat the great Satan. If you think for 1 minute that Iran does not have nuclear power, you might want to think nuclear weapons, rather, you might want to think again. They certainly do. They just don't have enough yet. They even have one of our drones that somehow didn't even get self-destructed, which it should have. They say it was stolen. How was it stolen? It drifted into Iranian airspace. How did it drift into Iranian airspace? It didn't. And how did it land intact and able to be deconstructed and reconstructed? So now Iran has a fleet of these stealth drones. We saved them 30 years of technology by just handing it to them. So, you know, we have a traitor in our house. When he gives away the CIA station chief and he's coddling the enemy and he's hiring clerics to curse our soldiers, and he isn't even getting a Marine back. One Marine, active duty Marine too, he just got recalled. From Mexico? From Mexico? Are you kidding me? He just released 36,000 prisoners. Drudge Report said that was the biggest prison break in history. Those 36,000 illegals that he released. Murderers, rapists, they use the excuse, well, their home countries won't take them, so we had to release them. So what are you going to do to the home country? You're going to keep giving them money? Keep sending them weapons? You know, you keep giving them passports? If the country won't take them back, why are you giving them a passport to come? If they didn't take the ones you already sent back, why would they take back the ones that they're about to send? Cancel their passports. Privilege. But we haven't even done that. Let's talk about these Nigerian schoolgirls. All right, there's reports all over the place that the Nigerian military say they know where the girls are and they're not going to use force to get them back because there's no sense in killing them trying to save them, which would be good rationale, except that back on April 17th, there were 2 reports that the girls, they got the girls back. 8 of them were killed. They found 2 tied to a tree. They found a couple of them buried. But 10 of them escaped, and then they got the rest of them back. So they've been playing this game with us since April that these girls are still missing. So now that story is getting around, bingo. Stories come out. They found the girls, but they can't rescue them yet. And the Brits said that they're in negotiation with the Boko Haram to do a swap. They're going to give back some of the Boko Haram prisoners, and the Boko Haram's going to give back the girls. But then the Nigerian president says, his name is David Mark, he says that they ruled out a deal with Boko Haram because they don't negotiate with terrorists. So what are you going to believe? They already rescued the girls. They're playing games with us. Obama used the War Powers Act to send 80 more U.S. troops and some drones over there. Why? Why did he need the War Powers Act for a rescue mission? Something's not right in this story either. On April 17th, they said they rescued the girls, and then all of a sudden you got all these celebrities, including Michelle Obama, standing there with pouty faces, holding up a hashtag placard. What's that going to do, by the way? That's not going to rescue anybody. That's just saying, look at me. I'm a celebrity, and I care. That's not going to rescue anybody. But listen to this story from Reuters. Nigeria's military knows where more than 200 girls abducted by Boko Haram are, but has ruled out using force to rescue them. The state news agency quoted Chief of Defense Staff Air Marshal Alex Bade as saying on Monday, 7 weeks since Boko Haram militants abducted more than 200 girls taking exams at a secondary school in the remote northeastern village of Chibok. Little is known about their whereabouts or what the military is doing to get them out. The good news for the parents of the girls is that we know where they are, but cannot tell you. Bade was quoted by the news agency of Nigeria as saying, but where they are held, can we go there with force? We can't kill our girls in the name of trying to get them back. I'm telling you right now, ladies and gentlemen, those girls are not missing anymore. They know where they are. And they're just using this to give back some of those terrorists. And why do we have 80 troops there? And why are they negotiating with the Brits? Britain's BBC reported on Monday that a deal was close to being agreed to rescue the girls in exchange for Boko Haram prisoners, a demand the group had made public earlier, but that was called off at the last minute. No, these girls aren't missing. Something fishy about that, too. We told you about the Ebola outbreak that's going on over there in Central and South Africa. Well, there's 5 more dead in Sierra Leone, which is right next to Chad and Nigeria, by the way. So are our 80 troops going to go over there and get Ebola? Or are these girls being infected with Ebola? This is real fishy, too. I really don't believe that we have missing girls like that. I think that this is a whole thing to give back those prisoners. We're getting stiffed, ladies and gentlemen. And our military is being used under the War Powers Act. Are we at war with Nigeria, or are we at war with Boko Haram? Boko Haram is still not on our terrorist list. And now they're saying they're associated with Al-Qaeda. The Obama administration said that Al-Qaeda has morphed now and is back on the rise. That's not what they said back in November when they were electing a new president, right? They didn't say that before. They said Al-Qaeda was on the run. Osama bin Laden was dead, Al-Qaeda's on the run, and General Motors is alive. General Motors has recalled more cars than they've sold. Osama bin Laden, yeah, he's dead. That part's right. Not really sure how that all went about either. There's even fishy stories about that. But Al-Qaeda's back on the run again. And how are we going to get out of this war in Afghanistan? That veterans thing is a big deal. Obama decides to end wars without making preparations for the soldiers who are going to be returning. He just wants what he wants, and he wants it now. He's going to end this war. Well, don't you think you should be preparing the Veterans Administration, and shouldn't you have housing and jobs and things like that lined up for these people? Or are you just going to say, I ended the war, and throw these people to the wolves, which it seems what's happening now. Abandon all kinds of equipment, blow equipment up because you don't want to bring it back, spend all kinds of money on bases and stuff, and then hand them over to, Afghanistan as soon as we're out of there. It's not going to be any safer than Iraq is. Al-Qaeda's on the move in Iraq. Those girls that were going to school and the housing that was built and the hospitals and churches, those have all been blown up, and the girls are back under burqa. We've done nothing except waste time now. If we go into war, how come we don't go in with overwhelming force, kick ass on everybody, and then leave? We are the only country that wins wars and gives back the land. But, now we're giving them everything. And who's paying for this, ladies and gentlemen? Where's this money coming from? Your pocket? I don't even know what to say anymore. You've all heard of Cass Sunstein, right? Well, Cass Sunstein is on our docket today. It seems to me that he's done a little bit of research and some paperwork on indoctrinating children. And he's been praising China for the way that China sets up their school system to train the children to be good little sheep. And he's going on and on and on in this article about how indoctrinating the children works, except for climate change or things of that nature that's going to cost them money. Listen to this story. The Powers and Limits of Indoctrination by Cass Sunstein. He posted it over at Powerline. Excuse me. Cass Sunstein, Obama's former regulatory czar. You know, he's a full-blown commie. He's a eugenist, and he's just a complete radical. One of the smartest and most devious thinkers on the left has a highly revealing Bloomberg column out this week reporting on the results of a study of the way China has attempted indoctrination in its school system. This column and the underlying study in its NBER paper behind a paywall, unless you have academic access, of course, are useful background reading for everyone who is rightly concerned about Common Core standards and how they will likely become the means of nationalizing a liberal school curriculum. What? You mean you aren't reassured by the promises from Washington that if you like your local curriculum, you can keep your local curriculum? Why ever not? Sunstein reports that recent curricular reforms in China, explicitly designed to transform students' political views, have mostly worked. The findings offer remarkable evidence about the potential influence of the high school curriculum on what students end up thinking. The crucial finding from the study is that the new curriculum greatly affected students' thinking. They became more likely to count the Chinese political system as democratic. They displayed a higher level of trust in public officials. They were more skeptical of free markets and more likely to reject the view that market economy is preferable to any other economic system. Sunstein, a leading advocate for increased government power across the board, is likely envious of China's prowess in indoctrination. There was, however, an interesting area where China's indoctrination failed to work, and it's a highly curious exception at that. Students didn't become more favorably disposed towards environmental protection. They were not more likely to give the environmental priority over economic growth, and they were not more willing to give up some of their income to protect the environment. It is reasonable to speculate that in recent years, Chinese students have been concerned above all about the economic growth, and therefore were less willing to want to focus their attention on environmental protection. Reasonable to speculate? This tracks closely with a large body of literature on the environmental Kuznets curve, that you won't have social and political support for expensive environmental protection until you achieve a middle-class standard of living for a nation. And China is still a long way from that point, with several 100 million people still living in deep poverty, with many millions more insecure about their rising but still fragile prosperity. This is why China and India are unlikely to ever agree to the U.S. Euro climate agenda. Interesting that the Chinese can't manage what seems to be easy to accomplish in American schools. But you really don't need to consult the economists on this one. Just take in Aldo Leopold, who put it this way: a Sand County almanac. These wild things had little human value until machination assured us of a good breakfast. It's tempting to give Sunstein a Green Weenie Award for this. So, Cass Sunstein wants to indoctrinate our children. And that's the bottom line. All right, guys. It looks like we're out of time. I want to thank you all so much for being here. I want to wish you all, for the remainder of a couple hours of the Memorial Day weekend, I want to wish you a blessed and loving and joyous occasion, and a somber occasion as well. Let's remember our veterans every day, not just 1 or 2 days a year. And we love you. Let's see here. To all of our listeners and our callers and everybody in the chat rooms, thank you so much. Anna, Lynn, AstroTurf, great job. Thank you to our special guest host, Jesse, and as always, a special thank you to my great co-host, Jojo Norton. Stay tuned to PRN, because coming up tomorrow is Bobby and Janice, and Wednesday is Watchman Wednesday. Our tribute show to Old Bulldog still runs on Thursday. And on that note, good night, America. We will see you next week. Let's hear a little